So I was just saying I've been waiting for the sequel to Gone Girl for a really long time. Gone Girls. Do you think that's going to happen?
Starring Tina Fey.
I read a treatment about it on Reddit somewhere. I think it might happen. What do you think?
You're reading treatments, Dave? You're reading spec scripts?
I'm in r/Black Book. Isn't that the name of that place where the scripts, the famous scripts that haven't been produced yet, aren't they in the Black Book?
They're rarely sequels to hit adaptations.
Can they get Neil Patrick Harris back somehow?
Could be a prequel about his life.
Yeah.
Ooh.
How he got rich.
Hey,
How did he
Gone
get rich?
Girls.
Was it like just his?
He was the
his
youngest
music,
doctor.
His musical talent, his PhD at an early age.
He was in Guided by Voices.
What a perfect transition, because before the episode starts in earnest, we have to introduce the official dive down drinking game as designed by
perfect.
our prolific and preeminent patron, Kilgore Trout, who I think did it perfectly.
Yes.
So this is for people who are 21 and up, or if you're in Europe, 18 and up. I guess Canada.
And play this safely.
I don't know what it is in Canada. Is it something different, like 19?
Maybe it's 19,
perhaps?
actually. Yeah, because I think you go to Windsor when you're 19.
Oh, yes.
So this is the drinking game. If you're under legal drinking age, you could drink a soda pop. I won't
Drink
tell.
a dirty soda like you're in
You'd be
Utah.
pretty bloated.
Whenever a band or album is mentioned, drink a beer. But if the band is from the years 1995 to 2010, you have to drink an IPA.
Yep. I already got one of
perfect.
those this episode.
Whenever Shane is mentioned, just take a shot of something.
Don't do that this episode.
Maybe a vaccination.
Whenever Stanislav says texture,
Uh-huh.
you rip a bowl, whatever that means.
I don't know what that means. Don't tell the kids about that.
It's legal in most of the United States and other parts of the world too. Whenever David mentions being in a band, you drink a White Russian.
Interesting.
And then whenever Devin O'Donnell, aka Doomwick, who's not here today, but when he's on the show and he corrects someone on how to pronounce something within Massachusetts, then you drink a glass of water.
What do we think? A plus?
Yeah, I'm loaded already.
A plus game. Well, we hope you all survive this episode. We're going to be talking about Shane a lot.
Are you?
Well, he's here.
I barely did anything this weekend. I just hung out.
But you
that's what
came
we're
here
boys.
to see us. You
That's
came there
what
to
we'll
see
be
us.
talking about. But
Yeah.
it's time for Shane to start pulling his weight.
This is Dive Down episode 324 in Intervention.
Getting harder and harder to pull, let me tell you.
Hello and welcome to episode 324 of The Dive Down, a Magic the Gathering podcast focused on the latest decks, trends, and strategies for the casual spike. My name is Stanislav here in Chicago, and with me on the line is the Godfather, David Harbarker.
Oh my gosh, I'm demoted to second introduced. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it's me. I'm here. I'm in my second spot
That's right.
next to the headliner.
Dave was promoted.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's what happened in Indianapolis this weekend.
That's right.
We had a discussion.
Because with us, against his will, calling in from beautiful Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm told it's
You know what?
beautiful. I've never been.
It's nice.
I've heard it has many factories and smokestacks.
It has 7 hills. That's the thing about Cincinnati, right? 7 hills?
Only 7.
He threatened he'd never return, but he and David finally patched things up. It's the one and only. Here for a good time, not a long time.
Yeah.
Finally in the Midwest, in the Ohio River Valley,
Finally.
if you consider it the Midwest.
If you consider my first 25 years don't count.
We'll see if you recognize his voice. He hasn't been on the show in a while, but he is one of the founders. He owns 33% of the LLC.
34, actually. And he's still our engineer and producer.
It's 33.4.
It's the
Right.
one and only Shane Beeps.
Right.
That's me. Hello. You know what? Cincinnati is really nice, Stanislav. I forgot how lush the Midwest really is.
It's verdant this time of year, I believe is a good
Verdant.
word. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many skylines have you had since you've been there?
I have not gone to Skyline. I did go to Swenson's. There's a Swenson's that's only like a half mile from my really remote temporary condo that I'm in for a bit. You know Swenson's, right, Dave?
Yeah, isn't Swenson's a big Akron
it's like
thing?
Akron. Yeah, it's like a Northeast Ohio thing. They have a veggie burger that's quite good, and yeah, good. They have the little like potato teaser things. So it's like cheese and jalapeno fried.
They have a galley boy and a potato teaser. I don't believe these things are real.
That's what makes it so good. They name their like fruit flavored sodas like by states. Like there's like the California, there's the Florida, and I think it's just like orange soda. I don't know. It's really good. There's I've seen multiple UDFs. I give them salutes as I drive by. I haven't got a malted yet. That's really important. What other regional Cincinnati foods can we discuss? But yeah, I mean, Stanislav, we talked just earlier this week. We just dropped an episode of our hot new podcast.
That's right.
What's in your pocket?
That's right. Hot new episode. Vita is Life drops this week. I need to tell you guys, I've never shared this with you, but my only frame of reference for Cincinnati is the 1993 classic film Airborne. That's all. That's like, when I think of Cincinnati, I just imagine scenes of like teen boys rollerblading through Cincinnati and I guess parts of northern Kentucky.
Right.
That's basically how it works.
Wow, look at this cast. Jack Black, Seth Green.
Do you not know about Airborne?
I don't really know about Airborne.
Golly.
Wow.
I thought everyone from Western Ohio lived and died by this movie.
Hold on, have you ever seen the Keanu Reeves, Drew Barrymore movie, Babes in Toyland? They have a whole song about Cincinnati. It's like Cincinnati.
I have not seen Babes in Toyland.
Well, you should. As Pat Morita.
No, my Cincinnati musical touchstone is and will always be the Afghan Wigs and the National, I guess. So that's two beers that everybody has to drink now.
It's going to be a loose episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to be here. It was great to see you guys this weekend. Looking forward to, I mean, I can talk about you guys playing Magic. I played approximately 1.5 games of Magic this weekend.
You borrowed more cards from us than you played games of Magic.
Yeah, that's the most important thing is borrowing cards from your friends for a game that you weren't going to play. Well, here's the problem. Okay, is they did not have like modern on-demand stuff. Like they didn't have like sit and go. They didn't have like give $5 to win 75 cents type stuff. So the only things I could do were on schedule. I didn't want to have a schedule. I don't want to be tied down by big SCG.
Wow.
I want to live free.
Gonna live forever.
I guess I could have done drafts, but
Yeah.
I don't know this set.
Irregardless, let's talk about this week's show. We're going to relive the fun and games from the Spotlight Series Secret Lair that took place in Indianapolis, Indiana this weekend. All three of us were there. We embraced.
As were some of you.
That's true. But the dive down took the Motor City, Indianapolis, by storm. We played. We ate. We raced rentable scooters past frenzied Pacers fans.
Did you? You did that without me.
We got into a pretty scary situation in an Uber ride.
Sure did.
And
You've been keeping stories from me.
We had heartfelt conversations with our new fifth co-host of the Dive Down, who doesn't even listen to the show.
Yeah.
And
He's a
is
silent
doctor.
partner.
He's a doctor.
He's a silent partner. We're going to relive all of that today. So sit back, relax, grab an adult or all ages beverage because you're going to need it for the new Dive Down drinking game, and join us on a very special Dive Down hang session. But first, we have to housekeep. We have some new patrons to join the Dive Down Nation. 4 of them. Rob A, joining at like the ultra tier.
Wow.
Rob A.
Thank
What's
you,
up,
Rob.
Hopefully your credit card information is accurate.
Or Shane will come out of retirement again.
That's the one thing that Shane is still in charge of. Because we can't be left with the money.
Shaking down the patrons.
Yeah.
We got Rob, we got Michael L, we got Wacka Graggles, and we got Charlie W. Thank you all very much. Welcome to the Discord if you're there. If you'd like to support the show, you can find us at patreon.com/thedivedown. You can also support us through our swag shop, our gift shop. Exit through the gift shop at thedivedown.com/store.
Where you'll find out that one of us is Banksy.
People have wondered, who could it be?
I don't know.
Why do you think I lived in Manchester for a year?
True.
We have some wonderful patrons, including Heavy Play, who will give you 10% off your first order at heavyplay.com with promo code TheDiveDown2025, as well as Mana Traders, who will give you 25% cash back after 3 months of service, renting Magic Online cards.
Can I say one of my favorite things? One of my favorite side benefits of being involved with Heavy Play is going to events and just hanging out with the guys behind the Heavy Play table and just helping them sell stuff.
Yeah, you like spelled Jeff, didn't you?
Yeah, Jeff had to take a break, and it's great. Just like, hey, let me tell you about these fine products, citizens of the Dive Down Nation, of the Heavy Play Nation.
The magnets,
it's great.
They sell themselves, really.
It's called the Heavy Plation, by the way.
That's much better.
Mm-hmm.
One of the unofficial perks of being a patron of the Dive Down is that you can DM me directly on Discord and ask me to promote stuff for you, which is exactly what our friend Cody had done, because his LGS has a very special RCQ perk that he asked me to promote for our listeners who I think might be interested in this. People in the PNW, there's a shop called E4 Cards and More in Bend, Oregon, and they offer a $500 travel credit to RCQ winners in Modern and Standard when that season rotates in. So they wanted to promote that, and they have an RCQ coming up on June 14th. It's Modern, of course. The winner gets $500, a sponsorship package from E4, t-shirts, sleeves. Go to e4cards.com/register to register. The season's not over yet, and sometimes getting to the events is the hardest part. Winning a tournament can be easy, but attending the Invitational, that's hard.
Yeah, that's an awesome bonus. I like when you said t-shirt, then sleeves really close together. I would imagine the t-shirt and the sleeves would be two separate items that you wore together. Like you get the sleeveless tee and the sleeves if needed.
It's those pants that have the detachable Velcro shorts.
Yeah, like they zipper off.
Why haven't we done that for sleeved tops yet? Giorgio Armani, get at us. All right, so we went to Indianapolis. We have stories to tell, but we should probably talk about the tournament as well.
I guess.
That's an order to do it in, yes.
And we're going to keep it personal to start because this was a very unique tournament for me. I played it with laryngitis. I basically had no voice, which was kind of wonderful, but I also want to talk about how that worked, how well that worked.
I liked watching you play.
I'd like to talk about my problems with this whole situation because I drove with Stan from Chicago to Indianapolis.
That's like 3.5 hours?
Yeah, it was 3 hours. At the end of a hard week of work, stressed out. I get in the car. I hear the night before, Stan's like, if my voice doesn't come back, I don't think I'm coming. Then he gets up Friday morning. He decides he's going to go.
He puts you in the tough spot of having to be like, oh crap, Shane's going.
Just Shane.
We have we have a hotel room booked. Do I want to drive 3 hours for this?
By myself.
By myself?
Which is fine. That all worked out. But I did have this ride down where Stan and I were in the same car together, listening to a podcast, Doughboys episode about Planet Hollywood, if you're curious what podcast we were listening to, where I couldn't talk to him. And so it was like we were just people who had been wed for 50 years and had nothing to say anymore. And I was just staring into the distance and he was staring into the distance. And it was some moments.
That's all good relationships, David. And it's what you don't have to say.
But then he started snapping at me to get my attention for things. And that's where it got a little off the rails then. Yeah. A clicking. I guess not snapping, more like a noise. Yeah.
How do you guys do that?
I don't know. But it was like he helped me find a parking spot in the garage because I was driving by once and he was like, and I was like, oh, yep, thanks, Lassie. There is a parking spot right there. It was really hell for me.
Your friendly parakeet.
You want to know what the origin of that noise is? It's my family noise.
Is it?
So growing up, whenever my parents needed to find us in a supermarket, they would just walk up and down the aisles just going, and we would recognize that sound and return to our parents. So I guess I had a very Pavlovian upbringing now that I think about it. And we were trained like dogs.
Yeah, it sounds like a dog clicker now that I think about it.
Yes. So I went to Indianapolis. I guess I was in the process of recovering from laryngitis.
Mm-hmm.
And on Saturday morning, I woke up technically able to speak with an incredibly hoarse voice, but I knew that I had to rest it as much as possible, which meant speaking as little as possible. But I was pot committed to playing in this event because I was registered and I wanted to play. So I wrote a little note in my life pad that said, "Hi, I'm Stan. I'm recovering from a lost voice, so I'm going to be talking very softly or as little as possible. Best of luck." And at the start of every match, I would just casually hand my life pad with this note up to my opponents, and all my opponents read it, nodded, smiled, and said, "Sounds great, best of luck." And here's the funny thing that happened. Most of my opponents then proceeded to talk to me as little as possible and would also speak very softly to me, such that at one point I even told one of my opponents, like, "Hey, by the way, you can actually talk. I'm the one who's kind of sick." And I was wearing a mask too, to be like extra cautious. But my opponent was just like, yeah, sure, it's fine, whatever. And
Yeah,
I
I
feel
understand.
like, two things. One, I feel like people just kind of want to talk as little as possible to begin with because they are generally focused on a match of Magic.
If you're lucky, yes.
I mean, you're not like me where I'm like, "Hey, how you doing? Where'd you drive from? Whoa."
Yeah. I guess a lot of people are not like that. I tend to be like that in general, but you don't have to be like that. But the other thing I noticed is that you can communicate a lot without having to speak. And I would do a lot of indicating with just my fingers. Like I would point to a card and I would indicate like one, if I'm cracking a fetch, I'll just like point at the fetch, put up the number 1. And then my opponents quickly learned like that means I'm taking 1 life. Or I'd point at a fetch land, crack it, and I'd hold up 3 to indicate that I'm fetching and shocking. And that worked really, really well. Fortunately, I was able to speak whenever there was a complicated board state or I had to sacrifice multiple things to Goblin Bombardment or something similar. But yeah, it was first really nice just how accommodating my opponents were and understanding. No one seemed like particularly annoyed or bothered by my condition. And yeah, it was kind of this neat little psychological, anthropological experiment as well.
Yeah, I watched a few of your matches, and I liked your, the elegance of like the Stan game sign language that was developing there.
It's a lot like the show sign language that we use when we flash numbers to tell each other to shut up.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
I'm holding up one finger, Dave. What does that mean?
Which one is it? I'm doing this. I'm doing this. What do you think?
That's cool. This is great. This is a great audio podcast.
It's good. Yeah, there we go.
All right, we did play. I played Boros Energy. David, did you play in this tournament?
I did play in this tournament. I played Is It Prowess, just like I promised I would. How was this tournament for you?
Other than a test of my sheer willpower and silent communication skills, it was not a good tournament for me.
Yeah.
I was foggy.
Were you?
I was extremely foggy. I woke up foggy. I haven't been drinking coffee
because the Celsius didn't help that I went and fetched for you.
You did fetch me a Celsius, but that was at like round 3 or 4. It was like
it was too late then.
And the die had already been cast at that point.
Indeed, it has. So yeah, I was like having a really hard time with combat math. I was messing it up constantly. I was missing really obvious lines, and just candidly, I was really unhappy with not only the quality of my play, but my deck construction for the weekend.
Okay, well, let's take these in 2 separate pieces.
Yeah.
Let's talk about deck construction quick, because I think it can be pretty short.
Yeah. I think I fell into a really classic trap where I built my deck for the previous week's metagame that I encountered in RCQ. And I did not give enough credit to the potential to this open event having a wide open metagame. And rather than building a deck that was kind of like built for a generalized room, I built it for a very specific metagame that I kind of predicted what I would encounter, and that was not what I encountered. I encountered a lot of different decks.
Have you found that to be reliable in large tournaments? Like there were 682 people at this event, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I know you play more like RCQ size stuff. I don't know what the last like large scale modern event you've played.
It was Portland. It was the RC in Portland.
I guess especially early on, in the early rounds before stuff starts maybe filtering down towards some kind of more expected meta, perhaps. Like, do you think that it's worthwhile to try to predict a metagame in a room in that point? Or like any percentage point counts where it's like, yeah, even if I do randomly face 2% Neobrand or something like that, I still know that 10% is going to be prowess or something like that.
I do think in certain environments, making a good prediction about the metagame can get you an edge. You can get that advantage from having a better deck than your opponents, like the deck building advantage. And in Portland, I didn't have a ton of success doing this, but I tried to do that by playing some main deck sideboard cards. Mm-hmm. That was the Underworld Breach meta.
And you had the main deck Wear Tear, I believe, there that you were quite proud of in that, right?
Wear Tear and Surgical.
Right. That's right.
And proud we were of both of them.
Right.
In this event, you can't necessarily like play sideboard cards main in the same way, or at least in the current modern format. I don't think you can play sideboard cards in the same way, but you can construct in my case, you can construct your Boros Energy deck to be either more of a mid-range plan or more of an aggro plan. And I opted for the latter, and I needed to give more stock and credit to the potential of playing like longer, grindier matchups. So there were a couple instances where I specifically missed having Fable the Mirror Breaker, which I was playing none of main. Mm-hmm. And I mean, yeah, like I made a call, I made a bad call, and you learn from that too. And I think there's still something to be said about building games for a perceived metagame for a small room like an RCQ, especially in a local scene where you might have a better grasp on like the type of players who might be there and what they might be playing, especially based on other recent local RCQs that you might recognize from your community. But for something like this big and something this regional, I think it's also important to remember people are going to just like come with their favorite decks. So yeah. I was playing against like some foiled out mid-range piles.
Yes.
And
yeah, I saw that match. And was that your draw? That looked foiled out.
It was, dude, it was a blur of a weekend. So maybe that was my draw, but I don't remember for sure.
Yeah.
And so it goes. I mean, listen, like I said, I made a call. I made the wrong call. I'm going to learn from that. And it was fine. I still had a lot of fun. I wasn't really too salty afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of good vibes, it felt like, around the tournament, at least with the people that we talked to and hung out with. And, I am very used to going 0-3 drop at tournaments like this. And so I was happy to even, I went 3-4. I was alive until the 7th round, which I felt pretty good about, where I was like, well, maybe I can win out. I've done it before. But it wasn't to be this
David,
time. Yeah.
And you'll do it again.
Yeah, sure. I'll do it again someday when I no longer have anything else to worry about in my life. But it was fun. Like, everybody I played against was a good sport. I didn't really see too many people tilting off or anything like that. I learned a few things about prowess. It did feel like it was one of the most popular decks in the room, and the stats indicate that it was one of the most popular decks in the room. From what I could tell, a lot of the people were evenly mixed between decks that had expressive iteration and didn't have expressive iteration, for what it's worth. So I think there were a lot of people that had Storm Chaser's talent for an extra threat instead, which is interesting because it is a threat that triggers prowess when you cast it and that kind of stuff. I don't know. Deck felt solid to me. I played against 7 different decks. Do you remember how many different opponents you played against, Stan? Did you have repeats or?
Yeah, I played against Black, White, Orzhov twice.
Okay.
If not 3 times.
Yeah.
But I think twice, at least twice.
I played against Prowess, Oops All Spells, Black, White, Blink, Titan Living End, Blue Eye Control, and Eldrazi.
Dang.
That was pretty fun to not feel like I
played the battle box.
Yeah, that I didn't feel like I kept queuing into the same decks over and over and over again was fun. Now, weirdly, what did I beat? I beat Oops All Spells, Titan, and Blue White Control with Prowess, which means I lost to Prowess, Blink, Living End, and Eldrazi. 2 of those are matchups that, according to the matchup splits, Prowess is favored in Black, White, and Eldrazi. I should have been more favored against those, but I did not pull them out. And that's what it is. It's why the difference between me having a winning record and not really is, you got to win those matchups where you're favored, and I did not win them.
Yeah. I'm looking at my opponents now, and I played against Esper Reanimator, Ruby Storm, Orzhov Blink, Izzet Prowess, Orzhov Blink, and Domain Zoo.
Yeah. So you had 5 different decks in 6 rounds.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That Domain Zoo matchup, that looks like so rough from like the sidelines. Just like, how do you deal with like just threat after threat after threat?
Well, the way you do it is by sacrificing your board to Goblin Varmint and doing lethal to the face. And I didn't see that line. And as soon as I offered my hand in the loss, I realized what the mistake I'd made.
What had happened.
I had my opponent dead on board, and I just gave it to them. And that's the type of thing. It's like, I was cloudy, I was tired, and maybe the day was getting to me a little bit.
That's when you hang them up.
Yeah. So I was just kind of ready to hang him up, go lay down in the hotel for a minute, and then go have dinner with my friends afterwards.
Yep. Not me though. I was not at that dinner.
Neither was I. I went home.
Yeah, you were courtside at the Pacers game.
I know. Yeah, that's right. I was on I scooted to the Pacers. A couple other things I learned about prowess.
Yeah.
One is, you got to do your combat math carefully, friends. I had 2 different games where I took somebody to a single life on an attack from like 16 to 1 or something like that. 17 to 1. So missing by 1 life is not great. So got to tighten it up before you go all in situations like that. And I also learned a little bit about the mirror. And this is just a theory, but I think it's a pretty obvious one, is that you can't try to be the beatdown when you're on the draw in the prowess mirror. You just need to leave mana open to interact with your opponent, because that didn't work at all. So needed some better plans.
That's like a classic kind of trap to fall into, right? It's
For
like,
sure.
You're an aggressive, you're an aggressive deck. You might be sort of aggressively tilted. You imagine your game plan as being the aggro, but when you're in a position where you're in the mirror, your game plan has to adjust to what your opponent's game plan is, right? And we talked about this on the floor. It's like, if you're on the draw, you're probably going to be the control. And I think it's hard. I know it's been hard for me in the past. It's like to identify your role and to respect your opponent's game plan, and don't just try to autopilot your game plan. Like we did that in just a test match that we were playing. Well, I was being extremely lazy because I wasn't really paying attention. Like, you presented threats, and I was like, well, I'm going to cast Shardless Agent and get 2 rhinos because they can block. And I'm like, well, 1, these creatures can get bigger than my creatures, and 2, they can freaking fly.
Right. And that's literally what happened to me, is I was like, okay, well, they have a slick shot show off out. Maybe I'll play my slick shot show off as well. And then, I'll swing in and try to kill them. And it didn't work. And I should have left up mana to try to interact with their creatures at least tried. I should have at least tried to.
Or represent it. You know what I mean? You got to put the fear of God into them a little bit.
For sure. But I still like the deck. It's a fun deck. And we'll see how long it's good for. Should we talk about the tournament overall?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, because as I think we've been alluding to, the metagame was surprisingly diverse, pleasantly diverse. You could say that technically the most popular deck in the room was Other. Mm-hmm.
Which we like.
Yeah, 16.5%. 113 people brought like one-ofs, you could say. But the actual most popular known archetype ended up being Boros, with close to 13% of the 682, 87 players brought Boros. So, David, you were correct that it was the most popular deck, single deck. Secondly, Izzet Prowess, 63 players, just over 9%.
Definitely felt like it on the tables, like I said. It was like every time I sat down, 3 people, I could see 3 people near me that were all playing Prowess. So I saw even more than there was, I think.
Yeah. And another 50 people brought Amulet Titan. Another 37 people brought Domain Zoo.
Domain Zoo at 4th is interesting.
Yeah, that was definitely a surprise. And then Belcher, 29 people.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Esper Midrange and Dimir Murktide, both of those had 21 copies. 20 copies of Storm. Goryo's Vengeance, 17 copies. I think that's also kind of a surprise. That wasn't really on my radar, and it was the first deck I played against.
Surprise.
So maybe Goryo's is what's up. And I was saying last week, like, combo is having a big moment right now. And there's probably even more combo decks than we're not acknowledging on the show. Goryo's being one of them right now, as well as Neo Brand, 16 copies of Neo Brand. Where's that coming from?
I don't know. I don't know what we're trying to do with that.
I think what you're trying to do is cheat in a big creature, an Atraxa or something.
Yep. One thing that's interesting here is this Esper mid-range to mirror Murktide kind of thing. I'm looking at the list to see what exactly Esper mid-range is. I think it's Esper Murktide. So there might have been a lot of Murktide at this tournament if it turns out that that's true for a lot of these Esper decks. There was also a popular variation of Black-White this weekend, including one that came in third in the hands of Raja Sulaiman, well-known SCG grinder from way back in the day, that was Esper Blink. So people are playing Esper cards right now, and a lot of it's to try to get Psychic Frog and Prismatic Ending into the same deck, I think.
Yeah, and I think to play sideboard Consigned to Memory.
Yeah.
Because Consigned to Memory was the most popular card in this tournament, was the single most popular. 52% of decks had Consigned to Memory in it.
Well, that's fascinating. 52%.
Yeah.
It is a really good card.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to mention that I thought was interesting, we don't have in here. I'm going to show these to you guys live, or we can read them. I'm going to read them, actually. The day 2 conversion rates were kind of fascinating with this deck. So Star City shared these out on X. I had looked to see what the metagame breakdown was earlier. And
My gosh, looked at X.
I know.
X.
I only look at it for that.
I got an X for you right here.
I know. I really only looked at it for that.
I made it with 2 fingers.
It's also maybe literally the first time I've called it X. Anyway.
And it felt bad, right?
I did feel bad.
It feels real bad.
I went to the dark place to find this for you. So Boros Energy, 21.1% of the day 2 meta.
That's
Nice.
That's a vast improvement over 12% of the day 1 meta.
Yeah.
It's so much so that I believe, as you go down the list, it's one of only a few decks that had a higher percentage day 2 than it had day 1. Is It Prowess went down to 7.5%. Domain Zoo went from 5.5% to 6.8%. So that one is one that went up. Amulet Titan went down by 1%. And from there we don't have to go further. It was Belcher, then Reanimator, then Ramp. But mostly the thing that kind of made my eyes go wide here was Boros Energy being so well represented in day 2.
Yeah.
And there's another ironic thing about that I think Stan will talk about in a minute.
Which is that its win rate was good, but not, a runaway success story.
Yeah, and there were no copies in the top 8.
Well, that too. But looking at the win rate matrix, Boros did have 53%. Prowess, by the way, 47.
Well, you see it in that conversion rate where it's like, it was 11% of the meta, and then after, or whatever it was, 9% of the meta, and then day 2 it was 7.
Yeah. Eldrazi and Titan also had sub 50%. The best decks were Domain Aggro, 55%, with really favorable matchups against Boros, Izzet, and Eldrazi, which were, I guess, among the top played decks in the room that day.
How does a deck like Zoo have positive win rates against those 3 decks? Because they feel very different, right? The first 2 seems like, you're the mid-range creature deck putting up enough walls and having...
You're not mid-range.
Well, you're another aggressive deck. You're like a mid-range creature deck.
I think you're an aggressive deck with bigger bodies and it's the same amount of removal.
Well, in those particular matchups, I feel like you would play the mid-range, right? Like, unless you think you can out-aggro Boros Energy or Is It Prowess, but I don't know.
I think you're right. You're the removal deck when you're playing against Prowess. I can't speak as much to energy, but I think Zoo is like trying to kill as much Prowess stuff as it can. The other thing is like Prowess is just stone cold dead to a turn 2 Scion with Leyline on the table.
Yeah, Scion's
and so
good.
if you're mulling aggressively into that and really trying it, I mean, it's really brutal. And nobody has any sideboard attack around for it right now.
Yeah. The other really strong deck in the room was Belcher, 59%.
Yikes.
Which I was singing this deck's praises last week. I think it's incredible. Still not the best deck in the room, though. That title goes to Esper Reanimator with 63%.
Wow.
People forgot about Reanimator. They were reminded.
Orzhov Blink also had a 57% win rate, including, remember I said earlier that I thought Prowess was supposed to beat Orzhov? Guess not. It had a 59% win rate against Is It Prowess, which means I win a 22-match sample, one of which is a match that I lost. And then, yeah, interesting. Man, Prowess was bad against everything except for Belcher and Demir Frog. It even had a 40% win rate against Eldrazi, which that's not supposed to be the way that works out either.
Do you feel like that's the kind of deck that people can tech against more easily somehow? Because it's like, get some more removal, just put in a few more pieces, maybe like a sweeper or two or something like that that you wouldn't normally have.
It's rate limiting spells. People can bring in Chalice and do other things like that make it harder for you to cast lots of spells.
Chronosphere.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the top 8. The winner played a deck that we haven't even referred to yet. Hunter Ovington won with Brute Scale combo.
Yeah.
That's a deck.
Yikes. I did lose against that playing online the night before the tournament. And I was like, oh, I'm going to beat this deck so bad. And it is fast. It's actually really fast, and it's hard to break up a little bit, like kind of like what card you're supposed to get rid of when I'm not totally familiar with yet. But
that's something you can learn. Like, even though Brute Scale has a very good matchup against Boros, especially, I think once you know where to point your removal spells, you can actually find an opening to do that. And they sometimes have the problem of like combining their 2-3 card combo, and you try to get in under that.
Right. I mean, that had a 58% win rate. It's listed here on the win matrix as Eldrazi Bloodchief combo. I'm assuming that's what that is.
Yeah.
And it had a 75% win rate against Prowess, but only 46% against Boros.
In second place, Esper Reanimator, piloted by Andrew Bailey. And then Esper Blink that you mentioned, Raja played. Raja, yeah. Is It Prowess made top 8 in fourth place in the hands of Justin Shable, as well as Azorius Affinity came in fifth place. There were 2 Orzhov Blink decks in sixth and seventh place, and then in eighth was Domain Zoo, which I don't think any of us would have even predicted this metagame, or this top 8. Like, seeing a Prowess deck in there, sure, but multiple Blink decks, a Zoo deck, Esper Reanimator. I think Brute Scale is probably was the underdog that, like, a lot of combo players who are paying attention to the format recognize the power of Brute Scale and that it's underrepresented in the metagame, if anything.
Yep.
But everything else here, I think, is a surprise.
Indianapolis is a real Blink meta, the Motor City meta.
They really, 3 of them did really, really well. I do want to mention this Prowess list with Justin Schnabel is actually, I wouldn't call it, I would call it Jeskai, because it has Wear Tear and Prismatic in the sideboard. And the other thing that's really interesting about this to me is that it has, looks like it has an extra, it has 2 Abhorrent Oculus in the sideboard. That's the other thing I was going to mention. And I was talking to some of the other Prowess players over the weekend, and actually you told me that last week, Stan, that George Jabor was talking about having Murktide in the deck. Well, what about Oculus, which is kind of filling a similar role as what Murktide could be, which is an extra graveyard payoff.
Yeah.
And apparently it's really, really good in the mirrors, because if an Oculus sticks in the mirror, it just blocks everything.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So, interesting card there.
Okay, final thoughts? I have some final thoughts.
Yeah.
I said this before, but I got the metagame wrong. Not just for the weekend, though. I think for a big paper modern tournament in general, I forgot how open these things can be and how diverse these things can be. And I think, if anything, it may be indicative of modern being more open that people may be giving it credit for as a format right now.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big tournament with a lot of good players. Like, we even named some familiar Star City names in that top 8 from back in the heyday of Star City. And they were playing decks we didn't expect. So, yeah, I think this was a more diverse metagame than I was expecting, for sure.
Yeah, and like 700 people, decent sample size for an open event. There's 7 different decks across the top 8. People came ready for Prowess. You know, I said that Prowess may be the most important deck in the format right now. even though, as you pointed out, it's not the most winningness, it was the second most popular deck in the room, certainly. And I think we saw that people figured out how to beat it. And we saw that across the board, really.
They're ready for it.
But I think the format looks better after this weekend than it did going into the weekend. Granted, there's a lot of combo going on, but there's still a lot of diversity within those combo strategies. And I think we can find aggro and mid-range strategies that can combat those combo decks as well. So that's exciting. I'm excited. I'm excited for Modern after this weekend, and I think like even RCQs are going to start to look a little bit different as people start to pay more attention to things like Esper Reanimator, maybe a little more attention to Brute Scale and Blink, and maybe we'll see the number of Corey Steelcutters start to go down.
Answer me a question. Guy coming back into Modern, he's not actually, but let's say, like one of the things you mentioned was, there's mid-range opportunities, there's aggro opportunities. To me, it looks like I am confused how you would pick from the selection of decks you have here. Meaning you have kind of like, hyper aggro, you have kind of go wide, aggro strategies like Energy, I would call a go wide strategy. Then you have kind of the bigger stuff like Domain Zoo. I see the affinity decks, and those look kind of like piles of big creatures and removal to me, as well as some card draw. You have, Eldrazi Ramp looks like it's on the downswing right now. You have the mid-range decks, the Blink decks. Like, how is the openness a consequence of perhaps maybe no big tournaments that are kind of guiding people's hands, and then they're therefore just playing whatever deck they think is the coolest of those various factors? Or how would you look at the path forward here besides, pick your flavor of a deck and run with it?
I would just pick your flavor of deck and run with it. And I think the openness is actually a product of the format self-regulating and churning, because there's no one card that is far and away more powerful than everything else.
Mm-hmm. That's important.
I think that's what's happening. With Underworld Breach being gone, we have an environment where people can play different flavors of combo. There's some flavors of mid-range and some flavors of aggro as well.
Yeah.
Control is probably the thing that's missing.
Yeah. Yeah. Although, like I said, I played against someone on Control.
Yes. We all played someone against Control.
We
David.
all did.
Is
Yeah.
someone playing Control in the room with you right now?
Yes. Marvin is. The only thing I'm going to say is that I think that the most powerful card in the format is
Consigned to memory.
Mox Opal.
Okay.
And I think that the Mox Opal decks haven't quite figured out how to be the best version or a truly broken version yet. Or maybe there isn't a truly broken version in the metagame available right now with Mox Opal. And I think that's part of what is helping it be a little diverse, is that, the Mox Opal people didn't really show up here as much, didn't win as much. I don't think there's any in the top 8 at all. I think that's part of what's missing from the top end of this metagame, and if that gets figured out, people start to get annoyed again. But that's a long way off, and it may never happen.
So that was the tournament, but the tournament was just a small slice of the pizza pie that was our weekend in Indianapolis.
That's right.
Here's why I bullied Shane into coming onto the podcast.
Yeah.
I thought
you wanted to drag St. Elmo's?
I thought it might be fun to do a little restaurant roundup.
Yeah.
People don't know about our tradition.
Yes.
You should tell them about our tradition.
Okay.
Shane, please do the honors. People are missing your soft, silky, buttery voice.
So our tradition is that whenever we travel together to a Magic event, we go to a steakhouse and we attempt to find, I guess, what would be a well-regarded, highly reviewed, class. And I don't know. I don't think we have like a particular type of steakhouse we like besides, Bavette's in Chicago as our gold standard, which has like the combination of like ambiance, service, food quality, food selection, history, location.
Yeah,
everything about Bavette's is good.
I don't think Bavette's has a lot of history, to be fair. I think
me,
it's
it
only
does mentally.
I think it's only a 20-year-old restaurant
They pull off the vibes really well then.
True.
Or it seems older than it is.
I'm going to take a real quick look at that, but
I think we can call Bavette's in Chicago a modern classic. And
yes,
Hog Salt is a modern classic restaurant.
Yes.
Brand.
They're all excellent.
Yeah. When we were in Bavette's, there was a celebrity sighting. We saw Fortune Feimster having dinner with some friends. And that's the caliber of restaurants we're trying to go to. We're trying to go to places where we might see someone famous.
It's the only way we really spend our podcast money is for travel to events.
Yes. Right. And then we have a business meal. We have a founder's dinner where we talk about the business.
We honestly do. Much of the time.
The business of show.
Business of show. So in this time we went to, well, I did some research. St. Elmo's came up a lot.
It's just called the St. Elmo, not Elmo's.
St. Elmo.
Yeah.
So it's not a possessive.
Correct.
Okay. What's in the notes of St. Elmo's? And I would have called it St. Elmo's.
It's called St. Elmo Steakhouse.
St. Elmo Steakhouse.
Not only does it come up in research, but I know someone from Indianapolis, and I said, what's the best steakhouse in town? And she said, you have to go to St. Elmo.
Yes. And I think Ron Swanson went to it on Parks and Rec.
Yes.
As my wife pointed out.
Yeah.
A real Parks and Rec head.
And
it was okay.
We were disappointed.
I was really disappointed.
You were particularly disappointed.
I would say Shane livid. Like Shane, what Shane is like when he's livid, which is when he walks down, when in the moment after Shane gets upset, he gets upset and then he gets more upset. And then he gets more upset, and then he has lots of reasons for being upset. So while we were walking out of the restaurant, there was a lot of reasons being shared.
Nothing I love more than delineating reasons I'm disappointed in something.
Yeah, well, that's how it was. The power with which you ruled this podcast with an iron fist for years. The reasons you're disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to drag poor Indianapolis St. Elmo's for any reason, but we
can. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, So as soon as I saw where they were going to seat us at the table, I was disappointed. I was like, oh, okay, this room is overly lit. It has no vibes. It's just like a dining room. It's like we could have been at Ponderosa. There could have been a salad bar at the end of the room. You know what I mean? There could have been an ice cream soft serve machine with like the state of this room. And that was a bit of a bummer. Like the other part of the dining room seemed like it had more vibes. You know what I mean? Like it seemed like there were more like nice booths, a little bit older.
Yeah, the main entrance galley has ambiance, and the dining room we were in had no ambiance. It was just a square designed to fit as many tables as possible.
It felt like we were at someone's wedding that we didn't know very well.
Yeah, and really we don't like them very much.
I mean, service was attentive enough, but I think overall, all the food just was not amazing. You guys got steaks that you weren't super into.
I mean, they skimped on the bread basket. So there's 4 of us.
Oh my God, bread basket.
It had 2 crackers and 2 rolls. So the 4 of us had to share the crackers.
Yeah, they didn't refill it.
I'm sure we could ask for more. We did not
we
need
shouldn't
to ask for more.
have to ask for more, David.
Not at that price point. You're right.
We shouldn't have to ask for more. Okay. There's basically no starters, but for their shrimp cocktail. And the shrimp cocktail,
the famous shrimp cocktail,
their famous shrimp cocktail,
the
only official starter on the menu. It's 4 shrimp, which were actually very well cooked. Like 4.
Oh, I thought they were overcooked.
No, I thought they were good. The one that David and I had were good.
Okay,
but
I thought they were overcooked.
Yeah. Okay, irregardless, they were drowning in horseradish.
Yeah,
you had to sift through the horseradish to get to the shrimp, and the server was even like, "Be careful with the sauce; it might be a little spicy for some."
Yeah, so
the sauce is unavoidable.
Why drown it in the thing? Like, what? It's like basically saying like it might be a little buttery, but like it's like it's like it's sitting in a vat of butter. Do you know what I mean? It didn't. It was like a shtick, and it wasn't a very particularly tasty shtick.
Yeah,
I like the shrimp. Our meals came with like baked in starters, and I had a lobster bisque, which I actually thought was delicious.
That was the best thing in the meal.
Can we talk about how funny that was, though? Your options to go with the steak, which I liked. You could get like a potato thing. So like, you want a baked potato? Do you want mashed potatoes? Like whatever. That was one thing. But the other thing that you got was a choice of navy bean salad or navy bean soup.
Yeah, navy bean soup.
A lobster bisque. A lobster bisque for an upcharge.
The lobster bisque was a special.
And it was a little upcharge if we wanted, which was fine. And the last thing was a glass of tomato juice.
Oh,
yes. A glass of tomato juice.
And I got the glass of tomato juice because I didn't want any of the other options that there were there. It was a really good glass of tomato juice.
I mean, that's clutch.
I had him crack some fresh pepper over the top of it. I asked the server if people did that, and he was like, yeah, they do that. So crack some fresh pepper on top of it, had it with my steak. Kind of weird still, but it was good.
We also split a chopped salad, David, and
Chopped salad was good.
It was good enough.
The Caesar was fine, but like the onion rings, not good. Brussels sprouts, not amazing.
Yeah.
What else did we get?
Potatoes.
Weird, had blue cheese in them.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have known this.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So we got sides to share for the table, and all the sides were kind of in weird proportions.
Very
so the
weird.
potatoes and the Brussels sprouts were a very small portion, basically big enough for 2 people, whereas the onion rings was a mountain of onion rings that could serve like 6 or 7. So they're just filling you up on mediocre onion rings.
Yeah.
All right, listen.
I feel like we're getting into talking about your dreams territory. Like, oh, these guys spent a couple $100 on a steak dinner and they hated it. Cool.
Yeah, and
Right, so here's the
kind of
thing.
did hate it. My filet mignon was not juicy.
Here's the thing. I wouldn't recommend going there to anybody who's listening to this. For what it's worth, I think there are other places in Indianapolis to check out.
Oh, yeah. I have a recommendation.
The funny thing is that when we were talking about where to go, I was looking at Reddit about the best steak, like a thread on the best steak houses in Indy. And I almost said, let's not do this because there's a lot of people on this Reddit thread saying don't go.
But I saw more pros than cons on that same Reddit thread.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. I felt like I saw a lot of people being like,
David,
But you took personal recos, which I think makes more sense.
You always do this. You
I do.
always do this.
I'm the person who said I saw this before.
Yeah. I've given you the book. Yeah. Lean in, dog.
Yeah. Wait, what does that mean?
You've earned a voice. You can chime in to our restaurant picks.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, my wife and I went to a place for like a light dinner and some drinks on the way out of town that I thought was fantastic. And I would highly recommend to anybody. And it's the Magdalena. It is in the Fountain Square district, which is like maybe a mile and a half southeast of downtown. It's kind of hip. And it is so when you hear the description, you're like, okay, this is going to be not good. It is a like New Orleans bar in Indianapolis. So we go there and immediately I'm like, okay, this is good. This feels like bars I've been in New Orleans, like, just kind of good vibes, like, the dotted, like, sort of rounded tile floor thing. The owner is there, right? I know the owner is there because he sort of introduces himself to us, and he's like at the bar. He's talking to us about like, because he basically, he hears us talking. He hears me ask the bartender a question or something like that, and he's there to like be involved. And I'm like, this person is doing this right. Like all the drinks we had were amazing, super high flavor, just really delicious, novel, both like novel and classics. The food we had was all delicious. I had like a shrimp toast thing, and that was bonkers. Like the carrots were amazing. Like highly recommended both for vibes, drink quality, and food quality. The Magdalena, very cool. Would go back. Will go back. It's only an hour and a half away.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave and I had a delicious dinner on Saturday night as well that we scooted to St. Joseph's Tavern.
Brewery. In an old church.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun ride. Now, I will say I had a lot of moments where I was like, I'm a 46-year-old man on a scooter right now. If I, leave my children without an earner, I'm going to be pretty upset on part of this because there was a lot of traffic where we were going, but it was fine. It worked out fine.
Yeah, you're just supposed to weave in and out of traffic is the move.
Can we talk about the scooters for a second? Because I have a complaint I'd like to register as well.
Okay.
I used them for the first time. I didn't know I had to turn it off.
Oh, God.
Okay. And Lyft didn't send me any kind of push notification like,
you haven't moved in
idle.
10 minutes?
Yeah. How about 6 hours, Shane?
Oh, no. Did you file a complaint? I hope.
No, I need to do it still. I'm going to try to file a complaint.
Did they bill you for 6 hours of
scooting? They billed me for 6 hours of scooting.
How much is that?
$70.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like $750.
It wasn't an absurd amount, but it was still like, come on, like, can't you send me, like, I enabled all the stuff on my phone, use my phone to turn it on. Lyft, what do I got to do to get a push notification that says you haven't moved in 30 minutes? Are you done with me?
I can't. I'm amazed you could scoot for 6 hours for $70. You could be like in Ohio by then.
Exactly. That's right. I scooted all the way home to Oak Park,
So last
St. Joseph's Brewery.
Yeah. Oh, we basically had starters for dinner.
Yes.
They
You and
were
me and
really
Dr.
good.
Martin.
Yeah.
It was really good. We got a charcuterie plate that was like $17. Okay, first off, St. Joseph's is in an old church. It's their own beers. The beers were good that we had. They had some fun ones. We only had like 2 or 3 different ones. But we got a charcuterie plate for $17 that was literally 3 times the size that I thought it was going to be for less than 20. Like, we got charcuterie plate. We got buffalo chicken poutine. We got, what was the other appetizer? Oh, we got deep fried cauliflower.
Yeah.
And then Stan and I split a little pizza, and Martin got a burger. And it was like an absurd amount of food. We totally messed up and got way too much food.
Yeah. The poutine was poutine in name only. It was just kind of like a sampler of cheese curds and French fries and like pulled chicken.
It sounds like poutine.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't covered in gravy, which is what I associate poutine with.
Was there a buffalo sauce on
Buffalo
the chicken?
sauce.
Just on the chicken, which
should
is
we have
buried
told
at the
people
bottom.
there wasn't going to be any more magic content? Do you
No.
think they just kind of inferred that?
No, they're here for us at this point.
Yeah,
If they're
who
still
cares?
here.
Who cares what people infer or not?
Yeah.
But yeah, St. Joseph's was delicious, but we had to get home, and it was too late to scoot, so we hired an Uber. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. At one point, the Uber went the wrong way in a one-way, and oncoming traffic had to swerve out of the way so that we did not have a head-on collision.
Yeah.
And
That was amazing.
That was. I wouldn't say that I was like scared for my life, but I did exclaim under my breath. I was like, "Oh God!"
Yeah.
I think it would have been louder. I would be like, we're going the wrong way.
Well, here's the thing.
It was pretty obvious. I think the driver knew we were going the wrong way.
I would hope so.
At the same time, I noticed.
The driver followed the directions that the GPS gave him. I'm like 90% sure from what I saw.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, I don't know if it made it look like he was going the right way once it knew that he was going the wrong way. It was like, well, you're committed. You know, it was one of those, the only way out is through kind of situations. But the worst thing about it was that it was around a curve, that it was like next to a viaduct. And so there was literally nowhere else to go. Like, we were just going into traffic going the wrong way.
And to pull a Dave, like when he started going down that curve, my spidey sense tingled because I do a lot of driving, and my spidey sense tingled where I was like, this feels like we're going in the wrong direction, but the navigation is telling us to take the street in the direction that we're going. And then as soon as you go around the bend, it's just like, oh, there's headlights facing us.
Yeah.
That's always the most terrifying thing, going the wrong way.
But our driver did the coolest thing of all, which was just capitulate to the direction his car was already moving in and just kind of like proceeded to just like drive a little bit more until he could make a turn.
No. He just spot committed at that point.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was very cool. Very normal and cool. And you know what? I guess Indianapolis does things a little bit differently.
They are the Motor City. They drive how they want.
I mean, we had a good time.
We had a great time.
Yeah.
We survived. So that's all to say, Shane's back in the Midwest.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you guys more often.
Yeah,
I mean,
what does that mean for us?
Oh, it means David to get the guest suite to my standards.
Nice.
There's a model train outside of it now. I hope that's not a problem for you.
Does it run 24/7?
It does. Toot toot.
Yeah. Shane's going to learn the schedule of that model train by heart.
No, I mean, I think, my wife and I.
My
wife, I'm sure she's in the other room right now being like, good Lord, do not speak about me in this podcast. We're looking forward to coming to Chicago, seeing you all more, getting some drinks and foods, and maybe I can even play some Magic. If I'm playing with you all, I would love it. Come up, do like a cube night or something like that. That would be sick. I would love that.
Sam would love to host you.
Yeah.
Hey, Sam, it's me, Shane.
We're Cuban. I'd like to host it at my house and we can have a little sleepover.
I mean, we have a box of cons you still have.
I do have a box of Cons Turkey here that I've had for 6 years.
I have a couple boxes of the Time Spiral Remastered. If we could play the Russian one.
Whoa. That sounds hard.
I have a sealed box of cons too.
Give me one.
Dragonstorm.
Ooh, let's do that one. Let's compare them.
We should just mix them up.
Like
Could be
it's
the
like
move.
they would be like cons, fake cons, but cons, Dragonstorm cons.
Yeah. Well, Shane, it's good to have you back. You're not even in the right time zone, but you are a little bit closer. And that
No,
always
I'm
makes me
later
feel
now.
good.
This is awful. It's like 10:15 p.m.
Yeah. So let's wrap this show up so you can go get your beauty sleep.
Yeah.
Because,
With-
buddy,
on my deflating airbed. Thank God my real bed comes tomorrow. I don't have my stuff yet. It's gonna get here soon.
you don't need stuff. We don't need stuff. We have enough stuff.
Well, I need my bed. That'd be nice.
You should be sleeping on a wooden board. The Cosmo Kramer method.
I should be sleeping in Cosmo Kramer's dresser.
All right, that wraps up this week's show. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. Get the latest episodes as soon as they come out. We're keeping it conversational from now on. Less magic, more vibes. You heard it here first. If you use Apple or Spotify or anything else, just subscribe. And leave us a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. We read those too. If you'd like to submit a question to the podcast or just reach out to us in general, you can find us on Blue Sky at The Dive Down or email thedivedown@gmail.com. If you'd like to support our show, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/thedivedown. Also check out our store at thedivedown.com/store. Head over to Heavy Play to get some incredible deck and dice boxes and play mats and more featuring the Equip Mag system. Use promo code TheDiveDown2025 to get 10% off your first order at heavyplay.com. And get 25% cash back after 3 months of Mana Trader service if you use promo code TheDiveDown, all one word. As always, special thanks to the bands Nowhere and Spaceblood for letting us use their music. And until next week, get out there and enjoy the Motor City.